Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I've got a viewer question that I want to answer. Steven asks, what is the best $2,000 watch that you can buy today? And I get that question fairly frequently. The issue with it is there are a ton of really good $2,000 watches out there, but they're all going to come with a little bit of a caveat, right? There's no one watch that easily stands out above the rest that I can say this is the best $2,000 watch. So that being said, I'm going to give you guys several suggestions because there are a lot of good watches out there. Some of them will not appeal to you, and that's fine. But at the end of the video, I'll have several that I think are good ones that I've had experience with over the years in this hobby. You may be asking yourself, should I buy vintage? I hear vintage is the way to go to get the most for your money. And that can be true. But the problem with vintage is there's so many redials and Franken watches and damaged watches and incomplete pieces and watches that have been serviced by Joe Schmo in his garage that unless you know exactly what you're doing and what you're looking for and what to look out for, you're probably gonna get taken. So I wouldn't really reach into the vintage scene unless you really know what you're doing or you know someone who knows what they're doing. Now, another thing to consider is buying pre-owned. You let someone else go into an authorized dealer and take that depreciation hit as soon as they leave the door, right? Depending on the brand, of course. So if you're okay with buying pre-owned, you're gonna get a lot more for your budget. So my first suggestion, my first recommendation is a Seiko, Grand Seiko SBGX series. This is their entry-level dress watch. It's gorgeous. It's perfectly proportioned, 37 millimeter. The nice thing is they're just as brilliantly finished as their higher end Grand Seiko models that cost thousands of dollars more. They're finished by hand. They have Suratsu polishing. The dials are deep and brilliant. You have these applied markers that just pop and grab light like nothing else. The caveat with these is they're a high accuracy quartz. Now my first kind of watch that cost around $2,000. This was years ago, but it was an Omega Seamaster Professional. This was the Bond Brosnan one on a bracelet, blue quartz. And I thought it was the coolest watch in the world. I was on cloud nine and when I put it on my wrist and I thought, wow, look at this finishing. This is as nice as a Rolex. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Little did I know that the quartz movement inside the watch was about as unimpressive as you can get. So that's not the case with these Grand Seikos. They're among the best quartz movements in the world made by the kings of quartz, Seiko. So that's my first suggestion. You can find them new for $2,000. You can find them pre-owned, approaching $1,000 in some cases. So those are good ones to consider. And here's another caveat, if you're okay with Seiko on the dial as opposed to like Omega or like I thought, right, with my first one, or Breitling or Tudor, right? When you're buying your first luxury watch and you're spending that amount of money, you want to have a little bit of vanity. You want to be able to put your wrist up and say, yeah, I'm wearing a Rolex or a Tudor or an Omega or Breitling or whatever. There's that draw, that appeal, that little bit of vanity appeal. There's nothing wrong with that. That just kind of happens with a lot of people that are buying that level of watch for the first time. You're not really going to be interested in a Grand Seiko. Or another suggestion, Nomos. Nomos, the Orion 38 is one of the nicest watches you can get for that budget. They are beautiful Bauhaus minimalist contemporary designs with a handline movement you can see through a sapphire exhibition caseback. The dial is again exquisite and rich, and it's a great watch, but it's a Nomos. Nobody outside of crazy watch fans has even heard of that brand. So, like I said, there's going to be issues with all of my suggestions. One is Brellum, if you like micro brands. If you don't care about the name brand, you can buy a chronometer made by Sebastian Mueller, who owns Brellum. He's a watchmaker, and he makes beautiful traditional Swiss watches. And they're right around $1,500 to a little bit over $2,000, depending on which model you go for. Those are really nice watches. But again, who's heard of Brellum, right? Outside of the crazy watchman. Another option is going Sinn. Now, Sinn is another German brand. They make amazing tool watches. with all these different types of impressive technology, like tegmenting, where you surface harden the stainless steel, or the copper sulfate internal capsules that dehumidify the interior of your watch case. You can get some pretty amazing, well-tested, well-regulated watches. The problem with Sinn is they're very austere and utilitarian. If you don't have a watch that has some finesse and polish and beauty about it, you could get tool watch fatigue if you're only wearing a Sinn all the time. It's not a watch that goes well with a shirt and tie, if you get what I'm trying to say. Another good suggestion, and I think this is gonna appeal a little bit more to the first time watch buyer, is buying a Tudor. Now, yes, you could go with like a Prince, if you know what you're doing, again, if you're buying a 30-year-old vintage watch, but go with a Tudor Black Bay, 36 or 41, depending on your wrist size and personal preference. Those are awesome watches. They're iconic, they've got a nice ETA movement inside, upgraded and regulated. Beautiful snowflake hands. I love the snowflake hands. I know some people don't, but hey, they're among the nicest handsets design out there. I really like them. And it's a time-only watch as well, so you won't have a date, but you will get a beautiful bulletproof bracelet if you opt for that. And those are under $2,000. I sold a Black Bay 41 earlier this year. I think I only got like 15 or 1600 for it. So you can get some good deals. Another option would be the Heritage Ranger. That one I don't like quite as much because it doesn't have the snowflake hands. It doesn't quite have the beauty and finesse of the polished applied markers, but it is really nice, really good watch for the money. So those are good ones to consider. Now, one last thing I'll leave with you guys. If you're patient, occasionally you'll find a really good steal on the secondary market. Like, I bet you could find an Omega Seamaster with the Cal 1120 automatic chronometer. I like the electric blue with the polished bezel. You could find that for about $2,000 on a good day. And occasionally you'll find a seller that's just impatient and is willing to take a few hundred less for a quick sell than trying to haggle it out and get a couple hundred extra dollars, right? So that would bring into play like the Tudor North Flag. They sell in the low 2000s right now. If you find an impatient seller, you could probably get one on a bracelet for $2,000 or maybe even a little bit less. Definitely less if it doesn't have the bracelet. And that has the in-house manufacturer caliber. You can see through an exhibition case back. It's got the date. It's got the power reserve indicator disc. That'd be a great pickup at about $2,000. So I would just suggest keep your mind open, do your homework, look at all the different watch forums and buy-sell trade groups. Keep your eyes out for good examples because occasionally you'll find a really good deal. Just remember, there's no one watch that is easily the best $2,000 watch. I can't say, yeah, buy that ball watch or buy that Pelton or buy this or that. You gotta find one that works for you. If you want the name brand recognition, if you want something like this, the Marine Master SBDX001, you gotta be patient because these are discontinued, they're hard to find in good condition, and they'll probably need a service. So there's gonna be issues with all my suggestions, but the nice thing is there are a lot of great watches out there. You just gotta find the one that's right for you. You've gotta be patient. Now, sorry, one more thing before we close. My final recommendation is if you're really patient, you're okay waiting 6 months or a year, save up an extra 1,000 or 2 and come back to the scene a little bit later. If you have a $4,000 budget, it opens up a whole lot of other options that are unavailable to you at $2,000. And especially if you like the name brands like IWC and Rolex and stuff, you're gonna do better with a $4,000 budget than with a $2,000 budget. So anyways, guys, that's what I have for you today. Let me know if you have any questions, if you have recommendations or suggestions, leave them in the comment section. Big thank you to you, Steven, for reaching out and emailing. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.